So, welcome to Munich for those who are not from Munich. And welcome to this amazing story that we will present to you. So, my name is Antonella Mei-Pochtler. I actually live in Vienna, but I'm spending a lot of time in Munich, and I spent a lot of time in Munich at university and later on. And we would like to show you what the power of Munich is. But before starting with that, I think we need to start with a bummer. So this is the situation in Europe. And it's quite, I would say, depressing to see that since 2007, we increased the gap to the US, both in terms of GDP and in terms of VC financing. So we have a 9 trillion gap that opened. We were at par in 2007, and now in 2023, we are 9 trillion smaller than the US. So I think that this is not a top performance. I would say, as a former consultant, we need restructuring here. The second point is the venture capital. Of course, it's not all due to venture capital, but without venture capital, without startups, without scale-ups, we will not close the gap. So this is the situation. The gap is larger. But we have a good news for you. There is a wonderful sciencepreneurship flywheel, and I think that we can show you practically that this flywheel can really close the gap. And let me just say a couple of words about the flywheel, and then we will discuss it with the flywheeler here, with the motors of the flywheel. You need science. Of course, you need to have innovation based on science. And then out of science, you need to create startups and then scale up those startups and step them up to large companies. Now, we are very good in science. I would say that in certain areas, we are absolutely globally leading. We are quite good in innovation, and we will discuss how you measure that. Actually, it's not just patents, but that it's also one indicator. And then we have some weaker parts, and the weaker parts are startups, but mainly the stepping up, that making them bigger. So what we will discuss here with the flywheeler is how can we accelerate this flywheel, and what does it take to make the breakpoint really joint acceleration points. And let me introduce to you with a little bit more of flavor the discussion partners. I would like to start with Jennifer. Jennifer, she was presented, my fellow woman here on the stage. She's professor for electrochemical materials at TUM. So far, so good. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. So she's an amazing sciencepreneur in the battery area. So she founded Qkera, which is one of the battery startups and one of the few headed by a woman. She earned her PhD at the ETH in Zurich and was a senior scientist and later a faculty member at MIT. And she worked also at the National Institute of Material Science in Japan. And she's a prolific inventor. I would say she's a little bit of a mix of Madame Curie and Charles Edison in newer shape. So I think, we are super proud to have her here. And it's exactly what we want then to discuss later on with her. Why did she come here? Why is she in Munich? I mean, she has all the choices of this world. And why she seems to like it here in Munich, and what can we do to improve it. She is also an advisor to the Bavarian Minister of Economy and Energy. And by the way, she's a fellow of the Royal Society of Chemistry, an accolade that very, very few have and extremely few women have. We have Jochen Engert on the other side, next to her. Yeah. And Jochen Engert is the founder of FlixMobility. FlixMobility is one of the super successful startups in, here in Munich.
Do you want to go to?
I can put it, yeah. I can put it up so you have it, yeah. Finally, they have the site, yeah. He's a super successful founder, and I have to say, you know, it's one of the few companies that really made it globally and dared to disrupt globally, starting from Munich. And one of the things that we liked a lot is that he acquired Greyhound in the US, and now he showed me pictures before. He's just started in India, so I think, you know, it's a real super success factor, you know. Let me go to Philip. Philip is the managing director and COO of, he's the managing director of UnternehmerTUM Venture Lab. He's a quantum physicist. And like every quantum physicist, he's really going very deep on everything he does. And he created this fantastic success factor of TUM Venture Lab, which he will describe later on. His background is in, he started at McKinsey, nobody's perfect, but then he went to Silicon Valley, and then later on he joined BCG, which actually is the alma mater of Jochen, of Philip, of Stefan and myself, so we're a little bit BCG biased, you know. He joined at BCG, we worked together a lot, and he pushed from the very beginning 3 very important topics: climate change, AI in business, and of course, quantum computing. And based on that, he then started his activities as TUM Venture Labs, and he will say major things later on. And then let me end, last but not least, with Stefan Drüssler. He is the COO of UnternehmerTUM, and he's making sure that 400 people support the whole ecosystem of startups and become more entrepreneurial. So we have all the elements of the flywheel here. And let me start with you, Stefan. I think, you know, this is the first question that I have. I mean, UnternehmerTUM is an amazing success. We are saying, you know, we want to achieve the Champion Leagues. I think we are in the Champions League, but our goal is to become the #1 in the Champions Leagues. And I would like to see what did we learn so far from our amazing success, and what can we improve? And I'll give to you the clicker, because I think that you have a couple of slides.
Yeah, 1 slide or 2 slides. It's about the ecosystem. And as you mentioned before, we need to change something, and we have this huge gap in GDP here, right? So we need to change something, and we are already doing that. So when we look at the numbers, so when Steffi opened, she said there are so many issues we have, all the challenges, crisis, strikes, and so on. But in fact, for this ecosystem, the year 2023 was an amazing success. So we saw $2 billion of venture capital investments flowing into startups from this ecosystem. And it's a huge number, but in relation, what does it mean? That represents 20 to 25% of all venture capital investment that has been invested in Germany into startups from this ecosystem. We have 1 to 2 new startups being founded every week. And this is the success of 2 decades of work and of development. So we have 15 unicorns founded by TUM students and scientists. TUM is the #1 leading university in the European Union. We have the most valuable German startup. Cologne is coming out of this ecosystem. And now the question is, how can this be done, right? And this is why I mentioned this ecosystem so often. It only can be done when a lot of players work together. So the universities and entrepreneurship centers, established organizations. With many of you here, so many familiar faces. We work together on driving this ecosystem together. Some of you who are not working with us, let's talk and let's start today. So this is all about connecting the dots or connecting the bubbles, right? You have venture capital companies, or here DLD also on this slide. And of course, then the successful companies like Jochen and entrepreneurs who now reinvest and inspire the next generation.
Wonderful. Can you give me back the clicker before we give it to Philip? I think, you know, you have seen Silicon Valley. You have been spending a lot of time in Silicon Valley, and then you came here and you started TUM Venture Labs. And I think, you know, it's a new kid on the block, but being your board member, I observed that the kid is pretty prolific, high yielding, you know, with almost 400 startups. So what is your mission really? And how do you want to put your mission into action? And I don't know if you have, probably you have a couple of slides as usual.
Thank you. Just to,
yeah.
Well, it's a privilege to be here, first of all. Yes, so we sat together 4 years ago and said, okay, it's a great ecosystem. We're standing on the shoulders of giants, UnternehmerTUM. What can we do more? What is actually the potential we have here in the region? And we decided the core asset we have is this huge scientific potential. Obviously, the TUM, the Max Planck Institutes, LMU, Bundeswehrhochschule, so everything here that is an enormous set of innovation. And we said, okay, if we want to raise that, how can we do that? Clearly, we have to be smarter than the rest of the world. As you see, it has a bit of an advanced thing. So we said, okay, we'll found the TUM Venture Labs. So the core idea was, and these are the TUM Venture Labs, the core idea was, let's take areas where we are very strong scientifically, where there are mega markets, and let's really push in the domain-specific support for entrepreneurship. You know, just saying, not because it's a little bit different whether you go into aerospace or healthcare, etc. And it's great what we have achieved here. In some areas, we're really leading very clearly, be it in aerospace, you'll see some sessions tomorrow, be it in mobility that we have obviously here, be it in robotics, be it in additive manufacturing, we have more sessions. But we said, what do we differently from everything else? We said we want to create one ecosystem. We create one organization because we need to leverage all the things that come in between these venture labs and the technologies to help one really influence the other. We got an enormous amount of help because we can't help it. You know, I see here in the audience both Helmut Schönenberger is obviously the architect of it all, and Markus Blume, who helped us a lot in getting this off the ground with the Bayerische Institut for Wissenschaft und Kunst to really help us in getting off this ground together with private sponsors, etc. Now, what have we achieved? We have by now in these venture labs, 400 ventures. You know, it's quite amazing, and you see here just to say the ranking. And in some of them, we're clearly doing with software AI. We have, you know, huge. We have the largest computer science department. You see Aleph Alpha here today, and so on. Food Agro, we'll see, and more. We'll have a lot to say about them in a second. But the one thing we said, we have to do something in addition to get deep tech and, you know, to really lower the barrier for deep tech and life sciences. So we have clearly said, look, you have to get AI to all the venture labs. So that's what the software AI venture lab does, not just the next Celonis, but AI into everything. We have to leverage additive manufacturing at the stronghold, simulation, and also sustainability. And with this, we're really starting to create an enormous flywheel to go forward. Thank you.
So wonderful. Philip, now, I mean, let me get to Jochen, you know, for a second, because Jochen, first of all, I mean, I really like when you gave the name Flix to FlixMobility and to FlixBus. I thought for the first time, verflixt has a very different meaning. And all the people who were stuck somewhere because the train were not going or the flights were not going, appreciate that you created that. But apart from this incredible positive success story, I really would like to understand how the Munich ecosystem has really helped you. I mean, you live here in Munich, you worked in Munich before, you studied in Stuttgart and in Canada. But you came back and you found it here, and you were able to grow the company to real level, global levels here. What worked well and what didn't work well? What would you like to improve?
Yeah. First of all, it seems like I'm the only ex-consultant without slides. So you'll have to live with my anecdotes. Now, as you said, we, and if I say we, it's the three founders, so Daniel, Andre, myself, and also the initial team, we started here out of Munich, and we did have this discussion at the beginning. Would you go to Berlin or would you stay in Munich? Everything's happening in Berlin back then, and this is now 12, 13 years ago, so it's quite a while. And this was more of a thing to, yeah, you got to go to Berlin to found a startup. And we felt like, no, we'll do quite the contrary. And I think being an entrepreneur in many cases is doing or having a contrary view to most other people. People thought we're crazy to found this in the first place. So why not also choose a different location than most others would? And we were always sure that Munich is first a great place, great city, great place to live, ultimately also a great place for talent. And ultimately this has proven really, really right for us. So we were able to attract talent, I think, a bit easier because we were having a bit of a uniqueness in terms of there's large corporates and there's those jobs that you can find there, but there's very few companies who are being serious, have a large ambition, global vision, and over time are also sort of growing into a scale-up. So we've had this uniqueness for us as an employer, and we're able to attract significant talent. And coming back to the ecosystem and what Stefan mentioned, 10, 12 years ago, there's literally nothing here. Like very few VCs, there's no venture labs, there's no sort of support, no ecosystem in that sense, and you had to create all that connectivity by yourself. And I think today, what we have here is so much stronger. And I mean, we just have Proxima Fusion here. Just to give you that example, we started investing back into the ecosystem. So we're angel investors meanwhile, so we're shareholders of Proxima in this case, very proud. And hopefully they're going to sort of build this technology breakthrough at some point. And so I think this is all happening, and this flywheel is actually happening. Unfortunately, and coming back to what you said earlier, we're still 15, 20 years behind the US in that development. And I think there's not enough time to wait those 15, 20 years, but we really need to accelerate and really need to push hard. And Munich, what has happened here as an ecosystem, must be a lighthouse for Germany, for Europe. And I would, as this is called House of Communication, and this seems to be a bit of a media conference too, I would ask everybody from the media to also drive this positive sentiment, this positive mindset, and the positive narrative into the world of, look, we can do this in Europe. There's so much negativity out there, and I can't stand it anymore. And as an entrepreneur, I think you grow up being an optimist in any case. And I think we need much more of that out there in the media, in the world, put that word of mouth out and get that positive spirit out there that we can do it. And I think Munich is a great example.
I think that's a very good message, because I think we had an event actually where Oliver Bierhoff was there, and he came into the event where we had all our startups, and he said, "Oh wow, this looks very different than the negative attitude that you find outside when you get here in this." I would say, positive bubble in which we are, you see the positiveness and the capability to do things. So I think, getting the news out that things are really moving here is very important. Jennifer, I think you are very, as I said, you are a very strong scientist who not only dares to know, but also dares to do. You had the choice, all the choices of this world. You could go anywhere to found your startup, and you chose Munich. And we really would like to know what attracted you to come here, and what are the strong points, and also what still needs to be improved, because as Jochen said, we are a lighthouse, but also the lighthouse needs to step up. So we would like to learn from you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Antonella, for this fantastic question. So I really enjoyed my time in the US at MIT quite significantly. And one thing that I learned was that almost all the great battery professors founded a company the next day. And coming back to Europe, and it was a very conscious decision, because I really like there is great industry in Germany. There is all the OEMs that are here. There's automotive going into batteries. I'm a battery scientist. So it was very attractive to come. But then in the ecosystem in Munich, you have opportunities not only to collaborate, but actually also to found companies, to be part of other companies' success stories. And I think this is very vibrant coupled with a government that likes green ideas. So that's something that I'm very net positive, and I really can in what you said. Mm-hmm. We have to allow ourselves to dare much more and having impact in the world. And for instance, on the topic of climate change and energy, it doesn't matter, I think, that it only happens in some lighthouse schools, like at MIT, but also TUM is one, which has similar fantastic scientists to do so, and a great structure to really have impact and consider what is the best way. Is it writing a publication? Is it actually going to the press? Is it helping a company to scale our innovation faster? Or is it later to found a company? And all of these options exist here. So I think the only thing holding one's back sometimes is just that we don't dare, but we should dare much more. And I think that this is something where I see this is happening here. It's not even an opportunity, it is happening. And I'm very, very positive about this and very honored to be part of this Munich ecosystem.
I mean, I just want to echo that. Yeah, I mean, we've built a global company based on we run bus services between cities.
Yes.
I mean, so if we can do this, a lot more people can do this and should dare to do this. Totally.
No, I think the daring is very important, but also the connecting is a very important point. And I would come back to you, Stefan. You are the founder of Rise Europe. I mean, we saw that Europe has not only to rise, it has to really rise a lot, you know.
Okay,
and
Europe.
perhaps you can say a couple of words about Rise Europe. I will click because I think that you have a slide here.
And let's say co-initiator, because it's all about these people, these individuals. So what we do, we saw this gap, this GDP gap, and it's a European issue, so we can only solve it as Europeans. So we need to connect the strong European tech ecosystem. So we do that, right? All these individuals that you can see here are representatives from the strongest tech ecosystems in Europe, from Oxford, from London, from Stockholm, from Eindhoven, from Zurich. Some of them are here. Meet them, talk to them. They are active drivers, makers in their ecosystem. We come together. We want to advance Europe, work together, join forces. We are strong in many dimensions. So, for example, in Zurich, you have great patent applications, right? In Stockholm, they are great in scaling companies. We have great engineers here. If we can be strong and sometimes stronger than the United States in some areas, despite all the hurdles, despite regulations, so let's not that be any excuse. If one can make it, we all can make it. So let's learn from each other, join forces, and really get things going.
But just one I would say, one little drop of negativism. When a startup starts in Germany, it is still just in Germany and has a lot of barriers that it needs to overcome.
And it's very difficult to scale. If you were in US.
And I think, you know, this is one of the things that we should be working on in terms of next phase, you know, to make it easier for startups to really get scale in Europe already. And
this is their passion to do that. So they will help to scale in their countries as well.
Yeah. So, Philip, I don't know if you have a slide, but I mean, Philip, one question that I have to you. I mean, we achieved already quite a lot, as I said, a prolific young kid, you know, on the block, 400 startups. And I think that we are in pole position in many areas like aerospace, robotics, additive manufacturing, and some few. But I would really like to know, what does it take to do what Jochen said before? I mean, to really do a step change, our lighthouse, how can we become even stronger, and what are we missing to get there?
I think we have all the ingredients we have. What we need is very strong partners. We have now the Dieter Schwarz Stiftung in AI that helped tremendously. We have Breakthrough Energy. We're collaborating enormously with them and see, you know, how to scale in energy. We just talked to Novo Nordisk, and they're very interested to help us scale in healthcare. So I think you need these strong partners. You need this acceleration that we set in the methodologies, and you need a village to raise a child. And I would really have also a shout out to DLD. They allowed us to invite 60 early stage startups here. You know, they're around here, talk to them, help them. They get exposed to the critical thinking, so to say, that is really, so to say, totally amazing in this world. And as you see over the next days also, we have some of the DLD school where if you don't want, you know, we're 95% acting and 5% talking, despite of what you see right now. So if you actually want to get into the dialogues, the DLD schools are fantastic. There's one going on right now on food agro. Food and agro will be nothing like it is today in 20 years from now. If you want to learn from them, ask them. It's running by a managing director. Later we'll see that legal, you know, lawyers, they focus so much on words, and now it's, you know, now it's haunting them because large language models actually know words even better than them, and Stefan Blank will show you how that is. Tomorrow we'll see additive manufacturing, what you can do. You can print houses, you can print aerospace, you can do everything you do. If you really want to get into that, go into the DLD schools. And on Saturday, if you yourself want to be more productive in innovating with AI, we'll show you how to get the idea, how to go to the market, how to pitch to VCs, whatever you know. And if anyone ever forgets, you know, what the venture labs are, Lars, can you raise your hand and turn around? There are these funny guys on their back. You see all the venture labs. You'll never forget what we're all about here.
So join the venture labs, because the venture labs are the one where you can really go deep in deep tech matters. You know,
Exactly.
Just let me. We are already over time, so we do not have much time. But I would like really Jochen and Jennifer. Just a final question. You know, Munich is great because of Jochen.
To me personally, because it's close to the Alps, but no, like on a serious note, because there's fantastic talent here. I think the ecosystem is there, the talent is there, the capital is there. You just need those who dare. And I think if we can spark that mindset, then we've achieved a lot.
And Jennifer, Jochen is great for a female founder and scientist because of?
Well, I think first of all, to all the ladies, little shout out here, dare much more tomorrow, and especially if you're a diversity candidate, just go for that, right? And don't stop with your dreams. Just look what the right setting is, right? And think about having impact, and I think for all of that, there's the right structures here in Munich to reach out globally and work together, I think, on the really big problems of the world. So don't dare and frighten away. Just do it. Just bloody do it. Yeah.
So let me end with a saying of Nelson Mandela. It always seems impossible until you do it, and I think we have shown that a lot of people are doing it, and thank you very much to my amazing flywheelers here on the panel. Thank you.
Thank you.